Hello folks, Brews here. Today I'd like to show you a few more Amonkhet standard brews for your inspiration and ideas. So I'm gonna show you 5 decks today instead of 8 because, well, it's not easy to try to figure out something that actually might be playable. First up, that's basically blue-white flash tempo that we saw in the past couple of years in various forms. One year it was really an insane deck. This year it's just a decent deck that I've been running before Aver Revolt, I think. Or no, actually, no, after Aver Revolt. I've been running it for a while, then I gave it to my teammate for a GP Utrecht, I believe. Where I don't think he went well because the metagame kinda shifted and this deck was kinda awkward. So let's see how this deck actually evolves now. And it's certainly a bit better. Mario could be tough. I think Black-Green is actually okay matchup. Um, Now we don't have Sahili decks anymore. This one actually fares well against slower decks, I think. Pretty decent. So out of the stellar cards you have, like, of course, Heart's Occurrence, with which you can play 4 here as well. You have Gideon's old ones and new ones. Archangel is the stellar of this deck, basically. You don't need Talia this much anymore. And then you have the usual cards here that you see in Mardu. But basically, the catch is that with the mana base, you can afford to play Status Snare, which is now much better, not just because of the vehicles, but also because of all the Gideons and also the God Creature cards. And then, okay, Declaration is also good for gods and scroungers and stuff. But basically, the catch here is to be able to play Rebukes and Spell Quellers, and then have some interesting sideboard. So you have ways to actually flashback Scrounger with Courtyards and Spire, and then because here I just have some simple 9 cards for the sideboard, but of course feel free to add up something. Pretty sure you want some cast outs, fumigates, forsake for a bunch of different things, some negates, which might shift into main deck. It depends. Actually, declaration for different stuff. Probably some more counters, I think. Some more tricks. So yeah, it's just another look at vehicles basically, but I think Queller and Rebuke are very important, plus Mario used to be kind of 4-color and Rebukes. So yeah, let's switch to spoiler view. Yeah, there could be Veswell Abbey in here, especially if you just go full on spirit synergies. Then you don't really need the courtyard and spire. Yeah, I definitely want more plains and islands in this build, but in the Marceline Wonder type of version, so you're probably gonna incline more towards islands, I think. Tally is not really integral to the deck anymore, and yeah, the deck is pretty basic, and you can try out different haymakers in the sideboard. Now, so Cat is gone. You're left off with a bunch of weird cards. What can you do about it? I'm not sure this is actually like viable, but this is probably what you do when you throw away white from your 4-color Sahili combo and take out the Guardian and keep the actual Sahili. Okay, you still have Chandra. Tamiya is not like really interesting anymore. Okay, you have like Cast out of white, and you don't need a 40 anymore. You don't need Ballista, but that's carless. Tamiya wasn't really like the driver of the deck anyway. Okay, you gain Nissa, so that's pretty interesting. Then I think because you shift more towards value and mid-range power, So shifting Hydra to main deck because you have Glory Bringer, then because you want to actually be able to effectively use the Healy, so um, Green Hulk's in the house. Blue one is just not that amazing in this build. And then you have your usual cards in here. Basically, you don't need Travers anymore that much, but you want extra energy for the Hydra, for example. And you're much more inclined towards that energy plan than anything else. In the sideboard, well, you can try different things, but I think it's gonna be quite basic with nothing extraordinary. Just adding the shock in here because, well, even without the combo, it still kills a lot of stuff from decks like this, from Mardu. Doesn't really do much against Black Green, but it's okay. Yeah, and ballistas are actually not going anywhere because there's gonna be more of the Black Green, which would play ballista just because it's a good card in that deck period, because it's really buffed in here quite a lot. So yeah, release is still good. So wrapping up with the visual view. I'm not sure the mana base is correct. I just took the previous one, which used to be for 4 colors, took out the white dual lens, and that's kind of it. Just upped the numbers on trails and canals. Might be wrong, but with like attunes and oaths and servants, I don't think it's a problem. That looks really rounded up, but because there's no combo, I don't know if that's gonna be still playable or not. I think this cyber is actually pretty damn solid. You might actually mix in some essence scatters in here, though, just to, have more variety and just more options. Maybe like you can sub one negate for one essence scatter or something like that. The rest seems to be on point, I think. Um, Maybe you wouldn't like shock, and I just don't think a spray does a whole lot in the format as of now. You get to exile scroungers, you get to exile some zombies, but that's just not that relevant. On the other hand, um, maybe I'm missing something. Problem is that you still won't be able to get rid of the gods anyway, so. And maybe White Splash is not actually that bad, but I don't see much of like necessity for it in this kind of deck anymore. This is not amazing in here, but when thinking of Temur, also think of the fact that Temur Marvel actually didn't lose anything, and in the first few days of this week, it was actually a pretty decent deck online. So you might want to turn to that if you want to use your Temur lands and Temur cards. So you might turn to that, and then Nisi is actually pretty damn good in that deck. I mean the new one. Actually, the old 5 mana Nisi could be actually used in here too, somewhere in the sideboard. I don't know, instead of what? Instead some of the stuff. I'm not sure what slot would it take, but it's definitely a thing. And now for a bit of goofy stuff. So we know there's a bunch of cycling. We know there's Drake Having. We know that some kind of control that could rise out of that. But I think it's the decks that will be actually viable will not be really deep on any of that. And I'm just trying to make like a very interesting, goofy, fun deck that at the same time might end up being competitive. Uh, but perhaps the competitive version of this will actually, just throw away some gimmicky, goofy cards out and just bring in some value. Basically, your blue-white control with a light green splash. But you have a theme here, not just the cycling, but also milling and kind of going turbo fog style. So basically a splash green for this haze, so which is a fog with cycling, and then maybe you will play a Tamiya Cyber just as a defensive card, and then the mana base and the some other fixing supports double green for a heavy sideboard card like the Season's Pass, which returns back a lot of gimmicky stuff. It would have 61 main and it's 25 lands, including even Sanitarium, because it might be really a thing here. Plus, it actually triggers Drakehaven, I believe, of which we just play one here because it's not the main plan, but you might add more, but then the deck will be a bit different. So how do you actually meal it outside of like Sanitarium and just make them deck themselves? Well, there is commit memory. Um, each player, like, yeah, they shuffle the graveyard and stuff like that, so that's a bit of a like tricky part, but then again you get to draw 7, so I don't know. So this might not be long here because they get to shuffle in the graveyard, but actually, milling yourself with the arguments is a legit thing because of not just some occasional embalms and stuff like that, but also because, well, you get to reuse stuff and so on, and just, shuffle in your graveyard and so forth. An extra cycling card just to, cycle through your deck. Yeah, so probably misread the commit memory a little bit, so I'm gonna get axed a little bit for that, but I still think it fits the deck. Maybe not in these high numbers. And maybe you would just rebuild the deck a little bit, but the core is there because you have the cycled cast out, some drafts, excavation that returns back a whole bunch of different things, pull just to pull ahead, counters. You might want some disallows main. Yeah, basically the shell is there. The question is like, do you want to really go bananas with it or not? The free mana Gideon is cool because, well, it protects against Harakiri, and that's pretty strong. Jace just fits the bill as a one-off somewhere. Maybe there should be more of the cats. Even without the Guardian, these are still okay just to jump and stabilize for a turn or two. Angel's just, well, you can discard it with Sanitarium or mill it with arguments and then just embalm it when you really need it, so it's nice to have at least one somewhere in the deck. Kefnet's, well, also like one of your win conditions slash draw spells. You're not really returning lands to your hand in this deck, but actually you might. Actually you might, because you have a few cycle lands in here. You might play more, but I don't think you have to. Mana base is not literally ideal here, but this is where I would start with a deck like this. Sideboard is just all cards for all kinds of occasions. Numbers could be different, but I think you want to try out all of these. Season Pass is particularly like pretty cool here because, well, it returns back so much of like cool stuff. Like Climb is interesting to cyber for slower decks that are bigger in Placewalkers or something. Might be even worth it if Marda vehicles will be sliding into mid-range plan against this, but negative on that, so they probably want to be as fast as possible against this deck. But I don't know, against Black-Green Delirium this could be a pretty nasty card. I think it deserves like one slot in the sideboard in this deck. Yeah, there are a bunch of ways to build this around. I'm not sure you want to go deep on the milling part. I do kind of like the Sanitarium in here just because of Drakehaven, basically, and just because you want to cycle extra lands and I mean loot away extra lands. zone, you might cut one excavation, maybe one is enough, especially if you don't go deep onto dirtly stuff. Not sure about commit memory because I think it's each player they shuffle in their graveyards and draw 7. Um, I include it in here because I originally thought it's just them. I mean, it's just you who shuffles in the grave, but otherwise it's probably not really worth it here because you're not gonna empty your hand that fast. But yeah, I do like the fogs in here, so just to stave off. It could be this could be just a slightly boring to play against Turbo Fog Control. So yeah, you might want then to replace arguments and commit memory with some cheap removal then. Add an extra Drake Haven. This was just a work in progress. I wanted to see whether I can pull this off, but yeah, the core looks like it's something for a very smooth, I would say, competitive control deck. Um, the light green actually does help, but you might splash in black here too for the enchantment that drains. That actually gives you extra life gains, so yeah, I could see that being a thing. Because they would do similar functions, they would be slightly different in terms of how you cast them around, how much mana you use, but yeah, that's they're roughly doing the same thing, letting you survive. But the black train cycling enchantments actually can become a win condition. I don't like really the 4 mana Gideon here. You don't, it's not really fitting the strategy. So yeah, just do the changes I just described, and I think you'll end up with a pretty damn good deck. And then with a black splash, you can do a bunch of pretty interesting things for your sideboard, like adding, unmaking, soaring, things like that, which might be actually in the main deck, but I'm not so sure. Maybe it's the main deck slash sideboard configuration thing in here. Okay, now for a couple more weird decks. So this was a deck that I had in mind a few months ago, to be fair, and it was fun. So in the previous video I showed you some Absent Aristocrats Throne deck. This one has a similar the same combo basically inside it, but this one can function more of as a value mid-range deck. Basically, the driver here is the Panharmonicon, of which we just played two because it's a very redundant card in multiples. And then you have tutors for the combo, which was the Cutthroat, Monitor, and Displacer. This is really using value from Displacer. This is at the core band deck, just having a very light splash just to maybe occasionally cast Cutthroat, which normally would be coming from Evolution or Traverse or whatever. You can cast it off of a Caravan, which you can fetch with the Trophy Mage. Then from black, okay, something like Unmaking or Soaring is cool in here. This is a toolbox deck. This is what something like Panther, Absent Company kind of doing in Modern. Similar strategy basically. So you can draw for your top decks with Vizier that you can search up. So other dig spells would be like Growth and Vessel that enable stuff like Renegade Driller. Don't think the meta supports playing Fatal Potion here. You can go aggro or defense with some Planeswalkers or get value out of them. Trophy Mage also searches up Bestiary. Yeah, so you can search up a ballista if you really need to, just as it's a good toolbox target. You can go on an offensive full gear Hulk as a 5-drop, or you can just find the bullet to get rid of something annoying with Angel Ascension. That's the one that hides away a permanent and on land. But yeah, or you can just grind your opponent down with Panharmonicon plus Cloud Brazers and Displacer, so you can do this dance. You have just decent value slash enablers like Sky Spawner, Manglehorn for the vehicles, Reshaper, just a good value card. Said earlier, you have Refiner, just a double draw with Panharmonicon in play. Probably there should be more servants in here just to enable off of Waste and Hub turn 3 Whatnotser, which is also amazing with the Panharmonicon and Displacer. Yeah, I could see some fluctuations going on. So on the side, so you have just a bunch of flexible cards. Green Warden can be sped up by Caravan or Servant, and then also can be fetched up with Evolution for cheap, and take back the Evolution and something else. And then, yeah, take back Evolution, then you next turn cast Evolution, eating, or also get another good buddy, and get back the Evolution, so it's that kind of dance, plus it's good with Displacer, that sort of thing. Ishkana, well, you can actually use the last ability on this, so you have some ways to generate black in this deck. And yeah, just a good also target for evolution and stuff like that, of which there maybe should be more in the deck. Lenval is a great thing to go from 4 to 6 with evolution too. There are not that many cool 4s for evolution though. Well, you can hit Seer, but that's not that great. There could be one more good 4 in the deck, you know, because hitting Seer or Vizier is not like that great, just to get to your Linval or Green Warden. So that's something to consider, because some negates, some counter spells. 5 mana needs to just for slower matchups and for grind fasts. Same for flagship. It can actually crew up there, some like bodies. Oh yeah, one good free I've gotten here is probably the tracker. So you can definitely use the tracker in here, but probably on the sideboard somewhere. So yeah, soaring just to kill opponents' Gideons and stuff like that. And Queller, maybe not 4 off. Not sure about it in this deck, but it could be fun. You can't really protect it all that well. Oh yeah, you could play something like Selfless Spirit in here just to protect your board. That's also another thing. That triggers a few interesting things like Rare Leer and, well, you can search it up to. On the other hand, protecting your board is not like super important because of the cut through, but you only have it as a one-off, just as a backup like combo. Combo is not your main plan. So basically, I think of the Panharmonicon Displacer plus all the cool old Drozes and all the Cloud Brazers, and then dance from there. You might have a different vision on this archetype, but I think it really deserves a shot. So you can also play the a good free drop, the 1/3 that hides away a creature. So that's another option. Maybe not main deck, maybe just sideboard, because it's not that amazing against hyper aggro, and not really a great card against control decks. So maybe just on the sideboard. So yeah, you can explore different options here and just see what works for you and works for your local metagame. Okay, one more final deck for today. Yeah, before moving on to that, let's just visual spoil the Panharmonicon deck, just so that you remember it like better. What's it about? Yeah, so the creature suit could be shuffled in, but I think you want to try like all of these in your 75 for different reasons. Um, yeah, I just like the Drop Mage because, well, it fetches up a carbon that does a lot for this deck, I think, and then this allows you to actually justify playing just one Bestiary main deck and get a good value out of it. You can fetch Panharmonicon sadly, but I don't think it's that bad. So you might shuffle in the amount of tutors and dig spells. I opted for one of Grove because it's rarely and just to fix mana. Um, but yeah, Vessel is more interesting here. Searches up more stuff. You could try off of Nisa, so you can go a bit more on that. Um, you could try for some artifacts with comes into play abilities, because that will trigger Panharmonicon. But I don't remember anything that's like really that good. Well, it triggers Ballista actually, I believe. So you get double trigger. I know it just enters. It's not when, so it's not like actually the trigger. So it just enters with X. So yeah, okay. So that doesn't work. Okay, well it works with the Hulk, but it's already a creature. Even though it's an artifact as well. But you can maybe find something that um, didn't notice. So on the sideboard, there's a chance you can just cut all the Quellers and then you can actually play a bunch of sweet bullets, like a bunch of sweet one-offs. So I think it could be a deck. It's certainly a very funny one, and some deck that will just bury control decks and card advantage and value, and it will be really hard for the deck to actually fight this value train. Yeah, I think this deck has a future. Okay, moving on to the last one for today. And that is basically Black Red Atog. I had this in my mind after Ever Revolt. Now with Amonkhet we get Fling back. But Flying is actually not that sick in here. I've put it one and I think maybe it's not even really needed in this deck. Basically this is a Black Red Madness artifact deck. Well, not so madness, but a deck around the talk. Probably Black Red Madness will be better, and it will feature a lot of the same cards. But this is a fun twist, so if you're not really like grinding it out, um, you can enjoy the game a bit more. But yeah, if you want to make it more competitive, just shift it towards the Black Red Madness. You can already find some deck lists online from Motto from MtGO. At the daily league events, I've seen some actually very solid builds of a deck like that. 22 lands might be too much for this deck. This one plays sparse because it actually has a lot of artifacts in it. Not don't think the deck actually needs the hubs that much. I think you maybe can cut those because you don't actually play Harness Lightning here. Yeah, so the Madness deck will feature Tempers and more zombies and axes and stuff like that. This is an old idea for sideboards, might be different, but these three cards are definitely solid and can be in the deck. Well, you anyway have like 4 pushes and 4 disintegrations. You might be playing ballistas here just to trigger in the push, for example. Also triggers in disintegration. So yeah, and well, it's an extra artifact also for the Atog. Bontu, that's the black god, but you might be playing the red one here too, because this deck actually empties the hand a lot. So the main idea of this deck basically is to use this guy and then just produce a giant blow. You have a couple of cutthroats which synergize with the Infusist, which feeds a Tog, and then sacrifice those servo tokens, and then things happen. Extra sacrifice outlets, a bunch of the black god also like X as a sacrifice outlet. So you have the schematic to fit the Atog and cutthroats and stuff like that. Of course, Scrounger's Trawler was just interesting because, well, artifact and joining schematic is pretty sweet, so Scrounger, stuff like that, but you might just like cut it. I don't think it's really that important in the deck. Courier, of course, as a one drop, just does a lot of things in this deck too, like another black reds. And there's a Midrange because you don't have all those cool white one drops. I could add it in an extra Pia here, but here's just because, well, it gives you an extra body for the Atog. Bushwhacker because you can kind of spam the board a little bit here. But yeah, so black red metas probably will be more competitive, but this one is goofier and I feel like a bit more fun to play. But yeah, you can actually polish this deck to make it even more playable. I think you need to cut hubs out of here. You don't really need them if you don't play Harnessed Lightning. And I don't think you need one thing just because of the intruder. But yeah, might not be needed so much. Yeah, that's rounds about it. 5 more brews for you to consider and toy with. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and check out the links in the description. Until the next sale, goodbye folks.